Ladies and gentlemen, the following episode is scheduled for one fall. Coming down the aisle are your hosts of In The Kliq, baby Huey and BrianTronic.
What's up, everybody? Baby Huey here, and joining me once again is my tag team partner, BrianTronic. How's it going, man?
It's going great, Huey. Reunited, and it feels so good.
Yes, it does. Finally, you and I back together recording a brand new episode of In The Kliq. I've missed you so much, man. To be honest, all the Kliqs out there, I missed you too, man. As I mentioned last episode, by the way, thank you again, Tim, Pro Wrestling Unlimited, for helping out last minute. He's awesome person. I told him before, he's the hardest working man in the pro wrestling news, website, reporting world out there. But no, I mean, seriously, September, October have been really busy for me personally. So much going on work-wise. There were so many concerts, festivals, stuff going on in the office. Just my work schedule was all over the place. Brian, I know you've been super busy just being a dad again.
Yeah,
your baby boy is just he's at that age. Wait, how old is he now? How many?
4 months, going on 5 months.
5 months.
He'll be 5 months, right? 5 months on Wednesday. No,
yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday. Yeah.
Oh man. So 5 months. So no, I'm sure. Yeah, he's been a lot, to deal with, as any newborn baby is. So
yep.
Your schedule's been all over the place, mine as well. So I do apologize, kind of for lack of episodes in over the last few weeks. But hey, I think I tried to supplement it as best I could with some amazing interviews. If you haven't done so yet, after you listen to this episode, go back, scroll down either on, the whatever app you use to listen to podcasts or on YouTube. Go back, listen to older interviews with, Dolph Ziggler, Bianca Belair, Bayley, Tony Khan, and CJ Perry. So, bam, five pretty big name interviews over the last 4-6 weeks. So
I'd say that's a great deal of content to hold people over while we make our return here.
Yes, exactly. So please take a listen, watch all those, and while you're at it, remember, subscribe to us wherever you get your audio at in the podcast realm. Also, please subscribe to us on YouTube, watch the videos, give a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the podcast. That all helps out with the algorithm, all that stuff. You know it by now. It's 2022. I think every podcast says the same thing when it comes to promoting themselves. Like, rate, subscribe, leave a comment. Yeah, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. I'm sure all the listeners out there are probably used to that type of lingo now. It's just when it comes to podcast listening. But no, for us, please, it does help out a lot. Our subscriber numbers have been going up, so that very much helps out. Any way you can help promote the show, we would greatly appreciate that. And then please follow us on social at In The Kliq. I'm going to try to get back to posting stuff as well, live tweeting, all that good stuff. So it's I feel like okay, in a few days it's going to be November, which
yes.
Not to panic anyone. If you think about it, Christmas is 7 weeks away.
Ooh,
the
man.
New Year is almost here. So a lot to go on, man. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Halloween weekend, and then shameless plug, my birthday in 2 weeks, and then Thanksgiving, Christmas. So yeah, I love this time of the year. These last couple months in the year, I always love it. So much to look forward to. But yes, Brian, so much to talk about. Last episode, we talked about Raw and SmackDown, what went on up at that point. For this episode, it's been a minute since we really had some deep conversation about AEW and what's been going on in their television storylines and whatnot. Also, it's been a minute since we talked some NXT. Big week for them with Halloween Havoc and the fallout on Tuesday nights. So a lot to get into. We will touch on all that. First things first, we got some Kliqbait news. And man, posts all out, all everyone's been talking about is AEW, the media scrum, the brawl that happened, CM Punk, his status, the Elite, their status, all that stuff, which is in many ways kind of overshadowing, what's been going on Dynamite and Rampage every single week, which we'll get into all to that in 1 second, but I do want to touch on a couple things. This one story is local for us here in the Bay Area, so it kind of makes sense for us to talk about it. Some exciting news. So last night in New York City, New Japan Pro Wrestling had their Rumble on 44th Street event, and fun show from what I've heard and what I've seen online. Some big things happened there, but they announced that New Japan Pro Wrestling will be coming back to the Bay Area, specifically San Jose, for Battle in the Valley 2023. Looks like this event will take place February 18th, and it's going to be New Japan Pro Wrestling's first major event in North America for the 2023 calendar. This is the second of its kind. They had a previous New Japan show in San Jose, Battle in the Valley. That was November last year, which I was so bummed I missed it. I remember it was going on. West Coast Pro Wrestling had the show the night before, and a lot of the New Japan stars showed up for that and then did the show the next night. So New Japan Pro Wrestling took over the Bay Area that whole weekend, which is awesome. With that being said, I definitely do not want to miss this next event. So February 18th, it's going to be at the San Jose Civic Center. Great spot. I was just there a couple weekends ago for a metal show, Testament, Exodus, and Death Angel. The Bay Strikes Back tour. That was a lot of fun. Great venue in general. It's a legendary venue. So you see some pro wrestling in there. I'm excited. So Brian, I think it's a goal. You and I, let's get out there, check it out. Have you checked out a New Japan Pro Wrestling show in person?
I haven't.
Oh, it's different. It's different. It's not a WWE show, whatnot. I've yet to experience an AEW show, but a New Japan show is really fun. I've been lucky. Was at the Cow Palace show a few years ago, where it was Cody versus Kenny Omega.
I missed that, man.
That was a fun show. They went all out. The Bullet Club Civil War that was going on at the time. Great storyline. And then what was it, like the following month? I went down to Long Beach, and they had a show at Long Beach State University in that pyramid arena that they have, and it was a very fun show there. So, and Cody was NWA champion at the time, so that was cool. He was walking around with the US title and the NWA title. So but yes, let's definitely make it a point, get out to that San Jose show.
Yes.
For New Japan Pro Wrestling, just keeping it, mixing it up. It's always nice when a big promotion comes to the Bay Area. So I'm looking at you, AEW. You guys need to come out to the Bay Area soon. I'm hopeful they will do that soon. Some other clickbait news. So this is something I saw come online this week, and for the sake of just, it's a fun, I think, thing to talk about. And so I believe it was WrestleVotes put this out there. There's an idea, a never before seen Money in the Bank idea that's now on the table involving Austin Theory. So Brian, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. So as we all know, Austin Theory won Money in the Bank back in July. And so we've been seeing him, try to make attempts, cash in on Roman. We saw SummerSlam. He tried cashing in, said he got punched in the face by Tyson Fury. Yeah. Been walking around on Raw every week bragging that he's a Money in the Bank winner. Who knows when he's going to actually cash in? I think at this point a lot of people are really skeptical if he's going to have a successful cash in, because a lot of people think there's no way he's going to beat Roman right now, and there's bigger storylines for Roman, so you're going to keep the titles on him for as long as you can. Where's Theory following all this? I mean, now it makes you kind of wonder, was it the right decision to put the Money in the Bank on him? But so the idea is, and it was WrestleVotes who tweeted this out. It said, quote, "There's an idea that he is the first guy to wait a full year, like the day of, or let's say night of Money in the Bank next year. That's the storyline. Like, you have to cash this in 2.5 hours. You have to cash this in 90 minutes. That type of thing. I know that idea is on the table." End of quote. So Brian, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on Austin Theory, the storyline idea to he holds on to the Money in the Bank briefcase for a full year, and then on the last night of the full year contract, he's scrambling last minute for a cash in? Your thoughts on that idea?
So I love the idea, and I would be all for it, especially if the tease prior to Halloween Havoc didn't happen of him possibly cashing in on the NXT champion. once that happened, I kind of started going the way of being all in on the idea of him doing that, because I feel like I don't see Austin Theory cashing in on Roman Reigns, right? And I think Roman Reigns is still going to be the champion, at least until like right before WrestleMania or at least after WrestleMania. I feel like they could save a big title change probably the night after WrestleMania or something like that. I don't know, man. It's just tough because there's so many contenders. There's so many guys that could really fit in that spot of being. I mean, we've talked about it. It's no secret. Whoever beats Roman Reigns is going to be a made man. Like that. He's that he's next up, right? And so, I just don't see that in the immediate future for Austin Theory. Now, I'm an Austin Theory guy. I love Austin Theory.
Yeah.
Obviously, when he won the briefcase, I was like, yes, like he's the guy, right? But Roman Reigns and what they're doing with his story and, Solo Sikoa now being involved in the bloodline and Sami Zayn, that whole story, it's just evolved into something completely different. And with Triple H bringing back guys like Karrion Kross and with Cody possibly coming back at the end of the year or, top of next year, you've got Drew McIntyre still. You've got, Kevin Owens. I mean, because from both rosters, not even SmackDown, you got Kevin Owens. You've got a ton of people who could be in that spot and be put in that spot and, obviously, like I said, be a made man from, beating Roman Reigns. I just don't see Theory being the guy to cash in. Now, the idea of him cashing in next year, when's Money in the Bank supposed to be next year? What, May or June?
Well, I think in the past it's always been in June. Well, in June, right? One year was May, and after that it was in June, and then this year though it was that first weekend in July, right? Because remember it was going to be in Las Vegas at Allegiant, and then it was 4th of July weekend, and then because of ticket sales they moved it to MGM Grand Arena.
So if they figure out the championship situation, right? Whether that's splitting the titles or if there's a new undisputed Universal Champion by then, since it's so far out, then okay, I can see Theory cashing in and whatever, clever, creative way they want to do that on the same night as they crown a new Mr. Money in the Bank. Then I see something like that happening. But I would much rather I feel like him racking up losses all the way until then ain't gonna work. I mean, he did pick up a win on Monday, but I just when the idea came out about him possibly cashing in NXT, I just felt like that would be a great opportunity, not just for the brand, but for him to kind of re-solidify himself. Vince probably didn't make the best decision by making Austin Theory win the briefcase. I think it should have gone to someone like Seth Rollins or Kevin Owens, someone who's obviously been there and who
more believable.
Believable and established, and who's been in there with Roman Reigns and who can deliver. Not to say that Austin Theory can't, but
you brought up a lot of good points there. And so with this topic or this idea, there's a lot of different little subplots here we can discuss. As far as I'm with you, I really enjoyed when he came out on NXT a couple weeks ago and kind of teased the idea of cashing in on the NXT champion, whoever was going to be, because it was the go-home show before Halloween Havoc. And so whoever was the winner after Halloween Havoc, the idea of maybe him teasing that he can cash in any of them. Now it looks like that was just a one-off appearance because now he's back on Raw and there's been no mention of him since. So was that just, they threw him on that one episode of Tuesday night because they were going up against AEW that night, so it was just like a potential ratings boost, just that throw as many main roster stars on that one episode of NXT. For me, when I saw him, I loved the idea. I was like, oh yeah, we never seen that before. A Money in the Bank winner cashing in for a championship they're choosing. never before it's been for the NXT championship. And in a way, it's kind of a win-win situation. It's like, okay, well, we know he's not going to beat Roman right now because, as we said a second ago, Roman has bigger storylines, potentially a storyline involving The Rock at WrestleMania. A lot of fans want to see Cody, don't want to dethrone him. Roman Reigns has had such a long historical and very awesome title reign thus far, over 2 years. Whoever beats him, that should be a really special moment historically for WWE's history, for the championship itself. And whoever wins should be a new made person and become like the new face of the company.
Oh, yeah.
That should be settled in the ring, traditional match, proper build up, weeks up, leading up to a month or whatever you want. It should be made a big deal, one-on-one match. It should not be Roman should be losing those titles with the Money in the Bank cash in. So with that being said, that kind of screws over Austin Theory and what having the briefcase is. At best, he cashes in and he has a failed cash in. And then the briefcase goes away. He's done. Austin starts over. No title. And maybe there's a story there of him trying to rebuild himself. But that's, makes you kind of wonder, did Vince make the right call when at the time he was still in charge and he booked to have Austin Theory win Money in the Bank? For some of us, it's like, oh, okay, cool, because he could win and, this could make a new fresh star. He's a young star on the roster and there's a way of maybe building a brand new face for the company. But now looking back on hindsight, it's like, no, there's bigger stories for Roman. Let's tell those stories properly. Money in the Bank shouldn't be nowhere near involved. So, it kind of screws over Austin. It's like, well, I guess the best case scenario on the main roster is a failed cash in. But what's another scenario that he wins something and he still looks good in the end? Potentially NXT champion. And when I saw that, I was like, that's a great fix because that kind of addresses all the issues here. Roman doesn't have to worry about dealing with Austin Theory and his cash in and kind of it's like a speed bump on Roman Reigns' title reign. But for Austin Theory, he goes back and, he's kind of, I won't say lost in the shuffle so far on Raw, but he's just there in the mid-card scene, being, working his way up as a heel. But NXT, he didn't really win any titles, if I remember correctly, right?
No, and I feel like you could have, they could have built some type of story there. I do think this is sort of like a Vince McMahon decision, obviously, and now it's a mess that Triple H is left to clean up.
Like, how do I fix this?
And you got to strategize and think about it, obviously, because you don't want to do something that could potentially, people are already on the internet talking about Austin Theory's career and all the losses, and it doesn't do him any good with him holding the briefcase. So, even a failed cash in could potentially hurt him still. But I was gonna say, with him going to NXT, you could have told, or you still could. Who knows what could happen, right? But you could tell a story. I mean, I remember Theory and Heyman having some talks, right, prior to the SummerSlam match that he was having with Brock. I know Theory was talking about he was going to cash in on that night. You could have easily maybe had Heyman cut a deal with Theory and say, hey, go to NXT and cash in. Maybe have Solo or the Bloodline help him out over there, take care of something just to keep Theory away from Roman. And, just, I don't know. I know it's still tough because you don't want to make Roman look weak, like he can't take on, like he's scared of Austin Theory, right? And then you don't want necessarily make it seem like Theory needs a bunch of help just to beat the developmental champion either. I know that you do something like that, that's bound to come out in the news, right?
Well, I give Triple H and his team credit. It seems like they're trying to do some course correction with the last couple months of Vince's booking decisions. One, obviously making Roman Reigns a double champion. So you take both titles off each brand and now it's on one person. And that's been an issue. And, how is this going to play into WrestleMania season? But two, Money in the Bank, you put it on someone who theoretically has no business beating your number one person with this long title reign that's double champion. So I thought it was a brilliant idea as a compromise. Like, yeah, let him beat the NXT champion or defend or cash in that briefcase on NXT. And if he wins, becomes NXT champion, good for him. Goes back down to NXT, does some seasoning, gets it better, a little more, reps there, or maybe helps bring some eyeballs. You may look at Dolph Ziggler. He won the title for a few weeks earlier this year when he beat Bron Breakker and the back and forth he had with Bron Breakker. Maybe a similar situation. He goes down there and he's winning the NXT championship. Doesn't have to be a long title reign, but maybe it sets up a new storyline with Bron Breakker. And
I feel like
Bron can win it.
I feel like you also don't have to. It doesn't have to be a demotion, right? Like it doesn't have to be. He doesn't have to only strictly be on NXT. I've been seeing that they've been cross promoting a lot. Like they've been promoting NXT a lot, like on Raw and on SmackDown, having Cora, Jade and Roxanne Perez go on Raw and SmackDown. So you could easily have Theory, cash in on NXT, have the championship, have a few matches on Raw, just to get more eyes on NXT if that's the plan, or
Well, I hope that. I know a second ago I said it looks like they dropped that idea. I hope they come back to it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, they kind of figure out what's going to go on the title picture. I know Bron Breakker's supposed to return next Tuesday. I hope they revisit that. I hope maybe Austin Theory comes back out. So, I know I said it looks like it was one and done thing, and that's what some people on Twitter were saying. Is this a one and done appearance? I said, no, I hope they bring it back. I hope Austin Theory shows up next week and says, you know what? I want a title that I never won before as the NXT championship. And then, like I said, it kind of course corrects some of the plot holes in this storyline as far as, it's for a championship of his choosing. He wants the NXT championship. He does have history down there and he wants to win it. And then that way he can be the big dog or big fish in a small pond down in NXT. And listen, as you said, for a while, I mean, up until a year ago, NXT, there was a lot of people who are fans thought NXT champions were more prestige than WWE champions.
Exactly.
I mean, the black and gold era specifically. So nothing wrong, I think, if he was to go down there, and it's not a demotion. I think if he was to go down to be NXT champion, he could really maybe bring it back to new levels of how it was when he first started NXT. So I'm all for it. I guess what I'm getting at is I hope they come back to that idea and let him cash in on NXT champion, let him win, become the new NXT champion, tell a fun story down there, who knows for how long. I like your idea. Let him defend it on Raw a few weeks. That way he kind of gets some more eyeballs on that title. And if people listen or watching, be like, oh, I'm going to tune to NXT and see him on his show. So it could be a great, back and forth promotion. So, I mean, like I said, I'm all for that idea. I think it's a great compromise for Austin Theory and that character and the title. And just like I said, a little course correcting Vince McMahon's decision of putting the briefcase on him in the first place. I would love to know, who knows if we'll ever find out the truth, but what would have been Vince's, and if Vince was still in charge, what was the outcome of this storyline? Did he think Austin Theory was going to beat Roman at some point, or it was going to be just a failed cash-in randomly one night? I would love to know what was Vince's intentions with all this.
It would have probably been a failed cash in or something, just like spur of the moment. It probably would have been a failed cash in at like SummerSlam or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but what do you think about this idea though, about waiting a full year? I'm intrigued by that, because I think for most Money in the Bank cash-ins, either they happen night of, sometimes maybe within a month. We've seen some happen within a few weeks after the pay-per-view's over, but I'm trying to think who had the longest one. Was it Carmella? I'm trying to remember. Wasn't there someone who had it for like 9-10 months? I can't remember. I should have looked that up beforehand.
I forget. I think, I was going to say, I was going to say usually, like you said, they usually cash in the night of, the night after. I know Otis held on to it for a bit, right, before he lost it to Miz.
I'm trying to see.
Well, let's see. Did Edge? Was Edge the longest?
Okay, Google says who had the Money in the Bank the longest. Carmella holds the record for Money in the Bank contract, 287 days.
Wow.
So that is what, about 9 months, over 9 months.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So because I remember she had it for a while, so that's almost a year. You know, that's.
Who's second? I feel like Edge would have been, because didn't Edge win it and then he didn't cash it in?
Okay.
Until like, oh no, wait.
Let me see.
Yeah, you're right. She might have been like a month longer than him, I think.
Let's see. Ultimate cash in. Edge previously held the record for 280 days. Okay, right. So you're right, Edge. So she's 287. Carmella's 287. Edge 280. Seth was 273. Wow, when he cashed in on Brock and Roman, that was 273 at that point. Really? Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. If April WrestleMania, and then if he won it in like earlier in the summer. Dolph Ziggler was 267. Okay, when he won against Del Rio, which, listen, I know Seth Rollins cash in, hands down, number one cash in of all time, legendary. Dolph Ziggler's cash in is probably easily my second favorite. Dude, goosebumps. When he cashed in, Del Rio was injured, and Dolph was just a man on the plan, a mission to go down. He was like storming down, marching down there.
You can see the emotion on his face.
Yeah,
him, everybody in that moment. You know, I mean, that was a hot crowd. I think that was the beginning of Raw after Mania. Was WrestleMania 29. I think that was the beginning.
And Sheamus 163 in 2015. Okay, all right. Okay, so
it's never been done a full year,
or needless over 300 days. So So with that being said, that could be interesting. That could be like a fun new plot point as far as the pay-per-view, the Money in the Bank pay-per-view is happening, and theoretically it's like one full year, and then like people could be telling Austin Theory like, dude, like this is the last night of your year-long contract, like you better do something, or it's like a waste of time. And maybe he starts scrambling, running around trying to find the champion. Like a ref is constantly with it. Maybe throughout the night they're checking him running around the arena. Whoever the champion is, they should go hide in a closet or something. So like, hey, if you can't find me, and the night's over, you're done. So that could be a funny storyline there, potentially entertaining story. But with that being said, something that also came out this week, and I want to get your thoughts on, there was news about with Money in the Bank, the future of Money in the Bank as a pay-per-view. So WrestleVotes tweeted out, I guess WrestleVotes is now working with Gimme Sports. So he talked about Money in the Bank, and as far as bringing back Money in the Bank to WrestleMania. And he said, quote, putting Money in the Bank on WrestleMania, one night women's and one night men's, is something I've heard. I know since Hunter has taken over, the idea of one night women and one night men is alive. So for anyone who doesn't know, Money in the Bank originally started as just an attraction, a theme match, gimmick match for WrestleMania. Eventually got so popular, they made it its own pay-per-view. Something we talked about earlier in this week, there are reports that Triple H wants to get rid of all like gimmick theme matches as pay-per-views. So like Hell in a Cell. Does that mean also like Extreme Rules, TLC, all these pay-per-view names that are based on a gimmick theme match. So Brian, I'll turn to you. Your thoughts on that. I gave my thoughts on the last episode, but your thoughts on Triple H getting rid of like Hell in a Cell, these gimmick pay-per-view names, and just bringing back like cool names for a pay-per-view. And then second question, your thoughts on, does that mean also, do you get rid of Money in the Bank as a pay-per-view? And are you cool with it going back to WrestleMania?
Yeah, since Triple H has come back, I've been saying that he's been restoring the feeling for a lot of wrestling fans in WWE, and I think that's probably one of the best things that he could do outside of bringing back some of our favorite, wrestlers, superstars, guys and girls. Outside of that, the best thing he could possibly do is get rid of the gimmick pay-per-view names, gimmick premium live event names like like Extreme Rules and
Hell in a
Money in the
Cell.
Bank, Hell in a Cell, Elimination Chamber, and bring back that feeling that you get. Obviously, at the end of a feud, the only way to settle it is inside Hell in a Cell, and you don't have to wait until December or whenever Hell in a Cell was in order to have that type of match. Same thing with Money in the Bank. That was one of the highlights, if not the highlight. It was that and the Undertaker streak was probably two of the most exciting things on
a WrestleMania card.
Yeah. And so I feel like WrestleMania is missing something, and that may be it, right? Because we don't have the streak anymore, right? And yeah, they've moved it to 2 nights, so we're that's been something new for WrestleMania. But I feel like if you put those ladder matches on, their nights, men on one night, women on the other, you sell more tickets that way.
Attraction,
attraction, obviously, and more people on the WrestleMania card.
True. So I'm with you. Like, I like that idea. Like, I'm with you. Like, I'm all for Triple H getting rid of all pay-per-views that are named after a gimmick type of match. I'm all for that. Hell in a Cell, TLC, taking all those away. And at the same time, take away Money in the Bank. Now, listen, I know Money in the Bank, for a lot of people, is considered like the 5th biggest pay-per-view of the year after WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. After that, it's because there was the original Big 4. Money in the Bank was like almost like considered the Big 5, or in some ways more exciting and anticipated from the fans than Survivor Series. But I'm all for taking that away in order to, one, it matches along with the theme of gimmick theme pay-per-views. And in the last episode, I said I'm all for making that trade, take out Money in the Bank, and bring back King of the Ring. I'm all for that. Then I said in the last episode, King of the Ring winners, men and women, should get like a title shot at SummerSlam or something. I'm all for that. And I like the idea of Money in the Bank going back to WrestleMania. Now, my only concern is, and now from a storyline standpoint, is this Austin Theory idea. Okay, if the idea is that he's going to be the first person to wait like a full year to cash in, and like the night of, like day number 365, he's scrambling last minute. How's that going to happen though? Because theoretically, that full year would have to be on the following Money in the Bank pay-per-view. So if he won it, 4th of July weekend this year, Money in the Bank, the pay-per-view would have to happen again 4th of July weekend, 2023. But if they go with this idea of bringing back Money in the Bank and putting it back on WrestleMania, and then if you get rid of Money in the Bank as a pay-per-view, does that then dissolve this idea of Austin Theory waiting last minute night of Money in the Bank the next pay-per-view? You get what I'm saying? It's like, if you get rid of Money in the Bank as a pay-per-view, then you really can't do the Austin Theory storyline here, because there's no full year pay-per-view to attach and do that storyline. Unless you were talking, Brian, off the air, and this was your idea, was like, well, maybe they do one more Money in the Bank pay-per-view next year, can do that storyline with Austin Theory, and then maybe 2024 at WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia, that can be the first time they bring back Money in the Bank at WrestleMania. Is that am I saying that right for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I feel the same way. It seems like they're doing. They announced Elimination Chamber, right? And that was one of the names that I thought, pay-per-view names that I thought was gonna go away. So I figured, okay, maybe they'll do it one more time in February, and then that'll kind of be the last time they do it. And then they can just scratch it off. Maybe one more time, the Money in the Banks, Elimination Chambers, obviously.
Like one last hurrah for all of them.
Yeah, for all of them, and then kind of like a reset, like a full calendar reset. I mean, I know that after WrestleMania this year, they're doing Elimination Chamber, so it's kind of not really resetting if you're keeping Elimination Chamber around. But hey, maybe it stays. I don't know.
Well,
but
yeah, because Elimination Chamber, the first time it was Eric Bischoff, right, on Kayfabe brought it, and that was used at Survivor Series.
Yep.
That was the second time a Survivor Series had no actual traditional 5-on-5 matches, if I remember correctly. Because the first Survivor Series that had no actual Survivor Series matches was the one-night tournament. The Rock became the champion, right? Was that 98 or
Deadly Games?
Was which one?
Deadly Games.
Deadly Games. It was like 99.
I think it was 90.
Big boss man would help them out and stuff. So that was the first time no Survivor Series had
a
no
whole bracket.
had no actual traditional Survivor Series matches. And then was it 2001 Survivor Series or 2002? Excuse me, if
I think it was 2002,
where Eric Bischoff brought Elimination Chamber instead. So I mean, do you consider Elimination Chamber a gimmick theme match that pay-per-view is named after? Because I think some people like it because, and Tim brought up a good point, that is not necessarily storyline driven. That's just more like competitors trying to get a title shot. So, Hell in a Cell only exists because you're trying to force a storyline there. While Elimination Chamber in recent years, it's more viewed as like a Royal Rumble 2.0 as far as the winner. Because, in recent years with the brand split, the winner of the Royal Rumble makes their choosing of which champion they want to fight. And then the other champion, who their opponent is at WrestleMania, is up in the air based on who the winners of Elimination Chamber. So I wonder if they'll keep that for the time being.
I feel like that would all depend on if Triple H is going to make the decision to split the titles, or just make one champion and have them work both shows, which I think, based off the rumors and the reports and stuff, it seems like they want to split it, and the networks, right? It seems like they want to split it. So I guess maybe Elimination Chamber might not go away because if one champion gets a shot via Royal Rumble winner, or if one champion gets a match at WrestleMania because the Royal Rumble winner, then the other champion's going to need a challenger also.
So no, it's a lot of questions. I mean, it's fun to think about.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but see, that's why I just, I hope they bring back No Way Out or something, or you can call it something, whatever you want.
Unforgiven.
But if you need a challenger, just have a little storyline going on in that month or 2 months before WrestleMania, and have 2 or 3 guys fight, or I don't know. I mean, I can imagine after the Royal Rumble, the winner, obviously, okay, let's say so-and-so wins and they're going on to WrestleMania. Maybe the last 3 or 4 guys that were in the match, maybe they, have a fatal 4-way or something, or maybe an elimination type style tournament, or maybe they or 3 guys can have a triple threat at the pay-per-view before WrestleMania. I don't know, something interesting like that.
So that's the thing. It's like everyone's talking about this idea for Austin Theory, which I love, but then when I heard the idea about Money in the Bank maybe going away and being put back in WrestleMania, it made me question, well, can you still do the Austin Theory storyline? But I like your idea. It's like, okay, well, maybe they want to do the Austin Theory storyline, so therefore next year they'll have one more Money in the Bank pay-per-view, get that done, tell that story, and then the following year, 2024, no Money in the Bank pay-per-view will exist. Instead, they'll push the Money in the Bank matches up to WrestleMania, to WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia, which could be a nice compromise. So you can kind of fulfill all these boxes here.
Right.
So, but then again, maybe they're like, you know what, no Money in the Bank in 2023. Money in the Bank's back at WrestleMania in LA next year, and we'll scrap the Austin Theory idea of holding out for one full year and instead just have him cash in on NXT. Boom. Yeah. There you go. There's 2 options right there for you.
Oh, yeah.
Hire Triple H. So, all right. I know we spent a lot of time talking about that, but I saw that.
Real quick, I'm sorry. That actually, LA, Hollywood, was the location of the very first Money in the Bank ladder match, WrestleMania 21. Oh. So that could be a nice return.
Which, by the way, we know whose idea was Money in the Bank. Our best friend, Chris Jericho, man.
Yes.
Which, segue right there, some Chris Jericho news we got to get into. I totally just made it up on the spot. That was an awesome segue right there. Money in the Bank created by Chris Jericho. Speaking of which, Chris Jericho was in the news this week for something I thought was pretty interesting. So it's kind of a two-parter here. So early in the week, there was some like last-minute news. We all know about the AEW brawl at the All Out media scrum backstage between the Elite and CM Punk, Ace Steel. I know it's been talked to death on so many different podcasts, outlets, all that stuff. But this week it was Dave Meltzer reported that pretty much the investigation has wrapped up with AEW officials over to the last 7 weeks. But Nick Hausman over at Wrestling Inc. reported he had some news from CM Punk's camp, pretty much saying that when the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega kicked in the door into CM Punk's locker room, in the process, when the door swung open and got kicked in, it was such a force. It hit Larry the dog, CM Punk's dog, in the face, hit a couple of his teeth, and when he went to go see the vet that week, he had a couple teeth removed from that. So, so this report came out.
Poor Larry.
Yeah, poor Larry the dog that apparently, yeah, when the Elite bust the door in, hit Larry the dog and caused him losing a couple teeth. And then within, I think, 24 hours was Dave Meltzer. Actually, I have a tweet here, someone explaining it. Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio says that never in the past 7 weeks did he hear anyone mention anything about the door opening, hitting Larry the dog, or the dog being hurt. Even the side trying to defend CM Punk all along never brought it up once, and now all of a sudden that's a story. So we'll get into the Chris Jericho stuff, but Brian, which, by the way, I do want to stress, we're animal lovers. We don't like seeing animals get hurt, dogs getting hurt. You know, if this happened, that sucks. We don't want animals to get hurt. But once this report came out, within 24 hours, everyone says, no, it's a total lie. So, Brian, your thoughts on this idea that Larry the dog apparently got hurt?
Listen, man, if Phil says that his dog got hurt, then that's what I'm sticking with. Okay? I felt so bad when I heard that, because I'm like, oh my God, no wonder why this investigation is taking long. He loves that dog. Like he would do anything for that dog. Yeah. You know, so it does kind of I mean, I know everyone's like, no, it's a lie, but it does kind of make me think, because why else would this investigation be going on so long if it didn't involve something, you know, somebody, I don't know.
Well, I hope they interview Larry the dog then.
I hope so.
Investigation.
Maybe he'll show up on the next dog side of the ring.
Dude, you know, I hope they do a Dark Side of the Ring episode on this.
They've got to.
They got to, but imagine the reenactment of this. Like, will we see like a fake dog like get hit by a door? I mean, come on, like.
Oh man, I definitely think that you know, we won't really know what exactly happened until somebody does an interview, and maybe Punk whenever he's comfortable enough, because you know, once he's comfortable enough, he will speak, and he will speak his mind and say exactly what he feels went on. So
okay, well, that's the thing, and it's true. It's like if the dog lost a couple teeth, wouldn't the reports of that dog losing teeth been reported like a week or two after it happened? Like, I mean, hell, CM Punk could have like maybe tweeted out a photo of like dog teeth in his hand, saying, "This is my boy Larry lost a couple dogs after what happened this weekend." You know,
I feel like even from like a backstage like source or something, like, because I feel like that would have been like Punk would have screamed if that happened. You know, like that would have been a huge talking point. I feel like you know CM Punk's dog Larry. I mean, there was footage that went out of Larry running around the arena before Dynamite went on the air one day. So I mean, if that got out, you know. Sure. So
so with that being said, so a couple things. And the reason I brought that up, because some more came out of this brawl this week involving, you know, CM Punk and the Elite. According to Dave Meltzer, several top stars in AEW stated they are not willing to work with CM Punk. In the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Meltzer reported that the feeling backstage is that Punk will not be back with the company, quote, a few names were mentioned, with Chris Jericho being the name mentioned most, but that many, if not most, of the key top names were saying that they wouldn't work with him, Meltzer wrote. Let's see. He also added in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, another top star in AEW said, quote, Punk won't be back. His value on screen isn't 1% worth the hassle and black cloud he causes backstage. And then Fightful Select reported that Jericho confronted Punk backstage at All Out following the media scrum and altercation with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, reportedly telling Punk he was, quote, a cancer to the locker room and a detriment to the company, end of quote. Meltzer reported recently that AEW is in negotiations with Punk over a buyout of his contract, with the holdup being the length of a non-compete clause. On Wednesday, Wrestling Inc.'s Nick Hausman reported that those from Punk's camp said Punk's dog Larry was injured during the backstage altercation. Larry was said to have been hit in the face by the locker room door when it was kicked in by the Young Bucks. At a vet appointment a few days later, Larry had to have 2 teeth removed. So, man, a lot to break down there. And then, of course, however, the story's being denied by those close with the Elite's camp. And Brian, you brought up a good point as far as if Larry the dog was injured in this whole thing, shouldn't CM Punk reacted to this right away? I know early reports said Kenny Omega was the one who actually grabbed the dog and tried to get him out of the whole altercation there and protect him. And apparently there's more to that, to what you just said. So, quote, a completely, in regards to this the dog story, from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, quote, a completely made up story, said one person regarding the story. He's Punk's losing in the investigation results and is desperate. There was a multiple weeks long investigation, and this was oddly not discovered. This is all Dave Meltzer's words here. Also, it so happened to be mentioned that the moment there was news about the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega possibly coming back, it's insane that people would even humor this. The dog story is a complete lie, said a neutral party who was in the locker room seconds after the incident occurred. When the altercation was happening, Punk was a total psycho. Kenny picked the dog up to save him from being hurt and gave him to Mega. Mega was holding the dog, screaming at Punk to stop. Punk didn't even register that his baby was being held by a stranger in the middle of a fight. It didn't stop him one bit. So, wow. Brian, yeah, a lot to break down there. So, it sounds like everyone else outside of CM Punk's camp is denying this whole dog story, Larry getting hurt. It's not true, apparently. Now, as far as Chris Jericho goes, well, I saw the video of the media scrum. We all saw it. Chris Jericho came out, sat with Tony Khan, did his time in front of the media. Afterwards, he got up and we all saw, there was isolated, I think, on Twitter where he told Tony something happened backstage. So it's interesting that I wonder if after that moment, that's when Chris Jericho went back there to confront CM Punk and stuff. So, Brian, I'd love to get your thoughts. Yeah, one, just your thoughts on CM Punk confronting CM Punk, Chris Jericho saying he's a cancer to the locker room, a detriment, and then your thoughts on other AEW stars not wanting to work with him.
I'm surprised. I'm actually really surprised that Jericho said that to Punk. Like when the reports came out that was said and that others in AEW didn't want to work with Punk. I was surprised because when in a situation like this, you got the Elite, Kenny Omega, Young Bucks. I'm thinking, oh man, you know how much of a draw and how much CM Punk has done for AEW since coming to AEW. You think, okay, one or two things is going to happen. They're going to say, all right, let's get it together, guys. Right? Like, this is AEW. We're on a roll. We're doing good. Let's make up and let's move forward. Or they're going to go with the superstar, the main guy, CM Punk. Yeah. You would think CM Punk, with how how commanding he is and how vocal he is and how, I don't know, he has this reputation almost like people would seem like they want to walk on eggshells around him. Like they wouldn't want to make him mad, piss him off, because you just don't know what you're going to get, right? It looked like everything and everybody was on the same page prior to everything with Hangman Adam Page and CM Punk. But then everything just kind of spilled out. And so I just don't know at what point I get Jericho, if he's the leader, if he's the locker room leader, if he has to act now as the locker room leader, he's not shy. He's said, numerous times that he feels like he is, one of, if not the reason AEW is even where it's at right now, existing, really. He was a huge sign off. He was a huge name, the biggest name that they had at the time, So I do want to say good on Jericho for speaking up, because, somebody's got to, right?
Yeah.
I just, with the tease with the Bucks and Kenny, the little thing that they ran on Dynamite, and I just are they coming back? Like, is this the investigation's over, right? So now it's just like, okay, so what happened? Like, it just left me with more questions than anything,
Well, so it looks like it was a Fightful Select report that actually Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks were backstage at Dynamite this week. So looks like they're back, working. Now, as far as when their return on TV is going to happen, that's, who knows when that's going to happen. Yeah, we did see the vignette, which we'll get into in a little bit when we talk Dynamite. But I'm with you. I'm really glad, kudos to Chris Jericho, my celebrity best friend, for standing up to CM Punk and calling him out on his BS. If he, saying, dude, you're a cancer to the locker room, and you're a detriment to his company. Like, kudos to him for telling him that. Because as you say, Chris Jericho, you can argue it's because of him that AEW exists. So I'm sure he takes a lot of pride working for that company. And if he sees another top star doing bad things that could hurt this company, he's going to stand up for it. And we know Chris Jericho is not one to back down. He stood up to other people in the past. Was it Brock Lesnar? Yeah. Was it Goldberg too? Like, he's been very vocal when people are, being a dick behind the scenes, that he'll go call him out on it.
And I think Jericho too has kind of stayed out of the way. He's stayed out of the drama, out of the way. Like, we haven't really heard much of Jericho being involved in any politics or anything. He's, he shows up to work. He does his job. He waves the flag. He does what he's supposed to do there, right? So to hear him now, it's got to be really bad. If Chris Jericho is talking, and if he's confronting you and he's telling you that you're a cancer to the locker room, that means it's got to be bad. And but then, like I said, it leaves me with even more questions. Like, what went wrong? There's no way a fight with a argument or a fight, whatever allegedly happened backstage, one incident, there's no way that makes him a cancer. Like, it had to have been stuff building up. It had to be.
Well, a couple things though. After hearing this, it makes me wonder, okay, and I know Meltzer said this, it makes you, obviously, okay, if CM Punk's getting a contract buyout, obviously that means they don't want him around anymore, so they're letting him go.
The
Elite are back, in the locker room at least. So he said it's kind of obvious who AEW officials sided with in all this, and based on the results, they realized CM Punk is, the one more in trouble, and therefore it looks like they're going to stick with the Elite in all this, and based on the results of the investigation. And also, if Chris Jericho spoke up, and now that CM Punk's on his way out, I mean, it's not been officially announced yet, and who knows when they'll make the announcement. I know he's still out injured, and that injury could take months to heal, so maybe we won't get an official announcement for a long time. But with that being said, it kind of maybe makes sense now why Chris Jericho, didn't he announce he recently signed a 3-year contract extension?
Yep.
And Jon Moxley. And you can assume those are two of the top guys. They've taken on bigger roles behind the scenes with the company. So maybe I would love to ask Chris Jericho this is, I'm guessing, this is just me speculating, maybe he knew that CM Punk was leaving or on his way out, therefore he felt comfortable signing a contract extension. So, all right, that guy's leaving, therefore, okay, I feel it's okay to stick around with this company because they're investing in us and not him. So that's something I would love to ask Chris Jericho about. is that the reason, or is that partly one of the reasons why he re-signed with AEW, knowing that CM Punk's going away, especially now they had this altercation? Right. And it makes sense. Other top stars maybe not want to deal with him anymore, because we saw, CM Punk win the business for himself earlier this year, called out Hangman Adam Page and said a lot of bad things about him, and apparently Hangman's loved backstage. Obviously, we know about all the stuff he'd said about Colt Cabana, and I know Colt Cabana is really well loved in the locker room as well. And I think originally wasn't he not going to be re-signed by AEW, but everyone vouched for him and voiced that they wanted him to stick around. So Tony last minute gave him like a Ring of Honor deal. So it kind of shows, those are some examples maybe why people backstage are like, this CM Punk guy is not worth having around. So he's like causing more drama than necessary. And let's get we don't want to work with him. And then sure enough, it looks like AEW realized, unfortunately, we got to get rid of him. So despite the buzz he creates, merch sales, pay-per-view buys, it's just a bummer. Like last August, how exciting it was to see him return to wrestling on that episode of Rampage, but now over a year later, a complete 180. But hey, I'm all for it if it's going to be long-term better success for AEW, getting rid of a guy that has that much drama and baggage around him. I get it. It's for the better. So, and yeah, it's funny about the whole dog story. Yeah, based on this one account here, that Punk was in such a rage in that moment during that fight, he didn't realize that the dog was nowhere to be found, and that Kenny Omega, a total stranger, had him. So it kind of doesn't really support the idea that the dog was injured. Like if his dog was injured, he would be like, "Oh my God, I can take care of my dog." Right,
because even in the early reports, it was said that Kenny Omega had picked up the dog, and I think that's why he got bit, because he was trying to save the dog. And
well, Ace Steel bit him, right?
Ace Steel bit him because I guess he was trying to help out, or it definitely looks like Ace Steel and Punk were the aggressors from the reports and from what everybody's saying. So it's just sad to see it. See him go out like that,
I know. You and I were both CM Punk fans, and we wanted to, I said this the last episode, I was hopeful over the next 3 years, if that's how long his contract was, we're going to see so many dream matches and, great storylines and promos, but unfortunately, no, we barely got a year of that.
I feel like he was just kicking it into gear, too.
Yeah.
It was just seeming like his old self again,
It's going to be a big what if now. What could have happened? What could have been his time in AEW if he would have kept his ego in check and, any issues he had with someone, deal with it privately, but not air it out in promos and kind of speaking in code in those promos. Because remember, there was a lot of promos and people were wondering who's he referring to, but now it's like it was Hangman and all that stuff. So,
well, and also too, setting it you're the elder, you're the OG, you're the the veteran, right? I mean, he considers Hangman and the Bucks and the Elite and children. Just if they're doing something bad, if he's coming off disrespectful, then handle it in the back. Set the example. Don't just act crazy.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. Is keep in mind, with CM Punk is I can see why a lot of top stars don't want to work with him, because in that press conference he said, I work with children. He was bagging on the whole locker room. So I can see why the locker room be like, F you, throw middle finger up. I don't want to deal with you anymore. Peace out. So that promo, that press conference really ruined his career. And I wonder where can he go from here? I know last episode we discussed, could he go back to WWE? Is it worth it? I mean, I wonder if this really would kind of maybe blackball him from all pro wrestling after this. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, that's a great discussion point. Maybe we could talk about it another time. That's a whole nother thing. But I can see it from, AEW's let's get rid of him, but make sure there's a long non-compete so he can't go back to WWE. I can see WWE be like, okay, well, let's bring him in for the pop and get those big moments on TV, but is it worth maybe ruining your locker room to have him around? Who knows? So I don't know. It's a lot of questions, man. What if?
And if he ever showed up backstage in WWE, him and Cody would be pointing at each other like the Spider-Man meme. Hey.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like I could see, why WWE might want him just for the ratings and like the pop and the buzz it could generate. But like, is it worth it that it affects your locker room behind the scenes and people can get maybe mad at him? And also think about it. A lot of contracts are coming up for AEW in the near future. If CM Punk goes to WWE, a lot of those people will be like, nah, I'm not going to sign with WWE. So for WWE, if they sign CM Punk, sure, it might be like great business up front, but long term, it might suck for them because maybe some AEW stars that they're interested, that they want to sign over when they're free agents, they'd be like, no, I'm not going to WWE. You have CM Punk over there. I'm going to just re-sign with AEW. So, that's another long-term issue to think about with CM Punk and whatever company he's in, how it can affect your roster long-term. So, I don't know, man.
That
Dude,
is
it's
true.
so
I didn't
much
think about that.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, no, kudos to Chris Jericho for sticking up for the company, for himself, for the locker room, and calling out CM Punk. And yeah, man, we'll see what happens, man. We gotta get Chris Jericho back on soon to talk about this. I gotta get talk about this. So all right, let's jump within the ropes, talk about some highlights from this week in pro wrestling. First, we'll focus on NXT, then talk Dynamite. Brian, I know it's been a week now, but just your quick thoughts on Halloween Havoc this year. It was last Saturday on Peacock, NXT, Halloween Havoc. I enjoyed the show overall, but yeah, what'd you think?
I enjoyed it. It felt a little flat at times. I think they were trying to. There was a lot of filler.
Yes,
I feel like a lot of things, like a lot of backstage like interview segments, like before and after matches. I felt like that it's been a while since that's happened for NXT, even in its 2.0 era. They didn't do too much of that. They still very much were kind of doing like the takeover style match after match after match after match. So it was different though, but
yeah,
it was a decent show. It was I know it definitely had me like kind of wondering like what's gonna happen, just because you never know with Triple H now and with Shawn Michaels and I listened to him talk on the the little media call thing, and he seemed so excited and just talking about the future of NXT. It just it made you want to tune in, like so I definitely, which I was going to tune in anyways, but tuning in to Halloween Havoc, it was a good show. I think the right people won their matches, and I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, I'm with you. As far as Halloween Havoc itself, a couple things. Yeah, for 6 matches, it went on a really long time, and as you said, they had a lot of filler in between. Like, a lot of those backstage segments or in-ring segments, they could have either cut, or those type of segments made it feel like just a regular episode of NXT.
Yeah,
and
exactly. They booked it like a TV special Halloween Havoc and not a premium live event Halloween Havoc.
Yeah, and so a couple things. One, I do like the setup in the Performance Center, the changes they made with the kind of the relaunch with the, I guess you could say, yellow and white or gold and white era of NXT now with the newer color scheme. I like how there's more room on the ground, on the outside around the ring. So for the wrestlers to work around, they're not like gonna bump into the wall right away by the fans. They push the fans back, that wall back a bit, so there's more room for them to run around, jump around.
Right.
But I want them to eventually get back to a point where it feels like a takeover again. I want them to get back to a point where just that excitement, that buzz. It's takeover weekend. You're gonna see some of the best wrestling in the world right here, and that buzz. That they still don't have that yet. And I know it's probably going to take time because Triple H, Shawn Michaels, them are probably thinking, okay, we got to undo what Vince and his crew did to us when they took it away from us over a year ago. So they got to undo the undoing. So
and I even feel like with obviously Triple H with the main roster and how he's filling it out. And, there's a rumored draft, happening probably next year. I'm sure there's going to be more NXT call-ups. NXT doesn't even have like a set, okay, this is who we're going to roll with for this year. And this is who we're going to roll with, who just people who we're going to develop storylines and stuff for. So I'm with you. I definitely want them to get back to that. Because there's no real, like, there's SmackDown and Raw superstars jumping back and forth too. And I know that the report came out like a week or two ago that was going to be a normal thing going forward, which is good. I think, to act like NXT doesn't exist like Vince kind of did is what I think kind of hurt NXT. And it eventually started to hurt the main roster too, because you have these guys and girls coming over, showing up, and you don't have that excitement anymore. Partly
continuity,
because continuity, exactly. And obviously Vince changing people's names and doing all that, wanting to change them completely from top to bottom, that was also an issue. But yeah, man, I'm excited for the future of NXT.
For Halloween Havoc itself, I thought the show started and ended with two great matches. In the middle, they had an ambulance match. I thought that was really good. The rest of it, there were some question marks there, which we'll get into real quick. So we'll just power through this real quick. So the opening match was the ladder match for the vacant NXT North American Championship. We saw Carmelo Hayes with Trick Williams at his side. Oral Mensah, am I saying that right?
Oral Mensah, yeah.
Oral Mensah from NXT UK, right? He came over. Von Wagner with Mr. Stone with him, and Nathan Frazier and Wesley. Now, the match itself I thought was great, like very inventive on some of their spots there. A lot of fun. It felt like Von Wagner was in there to be the one non-flying guy, high flyer guy, just to kind of mix it up. You can't have all the same type of wrestler in there.
Yeah.
Despite the fact he almost took a fan's head off with the ladder and setting it up on the outside.
Just when they might need to extend and make more room in there for guys like Von Wagner.
That's true. I thought the match was a lot of fun. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, it was good. It was better than I expected. I didn't really expect it to be too much, because I feel like we've seen so many ladder matches, especially in NXT, since the two. I feel like obviously with Sean being there booking, I know that the ladder match that's his match. You know what I mean? So, and then obviously when you have a big show, you say, hey, ladder match, that's what's going to grab everyone's attention, especially if you're putting a vacant North American Championship above. So, and I think the right person won too,
I'm just looking here. So yeah, Wesley, picked up the victory. He stopped Carmelo from climbing. They started a little fight up on top of the ladder. Carmelo dropped on the ladder on the outside, and Wesley was able to climb one more time and grab the title. And now he's the new North American champion. Very happy for him, because I think a lot of fans sympathize for him. He got kind of a raw deal. He came in to NXT with as part of MSK Hot Tag Team. They won the tag titles, and for the most part, he was known as a tag team wrestler. His time in Impact and all that stuff. Then he loses his tag partner, gets fired, and he's kind of by himself. And at first, he was just kind of floating around, just existing. I think he seemed like he was kind of wandering aimlessly, and I think a lot of people were kind of wondering what's next for him. But over time, they built him up, and it looks like he's going to have a nice run as a single star in NXT. So, and this is really cool. They seem to really believe in him to put the title on him. So I'm really happy for him, and what's next for him in NXT, see what he can do. That North American Championship, I think, really helps people, puts them over. That title in its short length of existing, for a few years now, it's really done some good as far as making credible champions, or whoever has the title, it makes them a really credible person on the roster. Now, where the show kind of went off a little bit was these next set of matches here. First up, the Spin the Wheel, Make a Deal match. It was a casket match between Apollo Crews and Grayson Waller. The big takeaway here was, okay, Grayson Grayson Waller, Apollo Crews were fighting on top of the turnbuckle. Apollo Crews falls back into the casket, so he smashes through the casket door and lands inside the casket. Grayson Waller thought he won, because that's the point. You got to put your opponent in the casket, and he's all celebrating. No, the lights go dark, and then what do they call it? Druids? Is that what they're called? They come out with a bigger casket. Apollo Crews is standing there. The match restarts with a new, bigger casket, and eventually Apollo Crews gets the win by putting Grayson Waller in that casket, shutting the door. So for that second half of the match, a lot of people were sitting there kind of confused, like, wait, shouldn't Grayson Waller be the winner? Apollo Crews went through the casket. Now, I know the door wasn't slammed on him, but he actually broke through the casket door and was laying there.
Right.
And everyone was confused. It wasn't until the end where the announcer said, well, technically you had to open the door, shut it, so it doesn't count when he broke through it. But a lot of people were like, that kind of doesn't make sense. I don't know. What do you think about this finish?
Well, I wouldn't even do that if that's the case. Like, if you can't win by being slammed through the casket, because what if you only have one casket? Then what?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when I saw the Druids come out with another casket, I was like, what are they doing? Like, what's going on? Yeah, I was confused. This feud never should have happened. I've watched this week to week, and it did not make sense. It didn't fit. I don't even know.
Yeah,
it's very silly. I don't know. I thought Apollo Crews was coming back to NXT to be serious, to be himself, and they gave him supernatural power. I don't know what's going on. He has control over Taker's Druids now.
Well, a couple things. So yeah, his power is he can sense something happening in the future. So he's like Dr. Fate kind of, right? And
Raven
then
Simone.
Yeah, that's more accurate. Right? They should have him eating like the Raven meme.
Yeah.
But and then and then his eyes were bleeding for on one episode. It was just getting kind of silly.
I mean, I would have been fine if this just wasn't a casket match. If this was a one-on-one match, then that would have been cool. Casket match was just bizarre to have for two guys like Grayson Waller and Apollo Crews. It's just weird.
Yeah, so it wasn't. Yeah, like I said, if you're gonna do that type of spot in the match, then the announcers need to explain really quickly, like, hey, he technically did not open the door and shut it, so technically, even though he went through it, it doesn't count. But even Vic Joseph seemed lost too.
It's like at WrestleMania, or I'm sorry, Royal Rumble 2000, when the Dudleys and the Hardys fought in that tables match. They had a table propped up, and Devon and Bubba were leaning against the tables, but Matt and Jeff went over the top rope and they went flying through the table, but Bubba and Devon had moved, and Jim Ross right away was telling Jay, or the King, Jerry Lawler, that you have to be actually put through the table by someone. You can't put yourself through the table. That's not,
gotcha.
Yeah. So even if they didn't but if they would have just explained that, it would have made it better to watch.
Yeah. So that kind of, I think, deflated the rest of this match. And a lot of people were just sitting there kind of confused and quiet. So yeah, it's a little unfortunate, but it looks like, and we'll jump into it a little bit later, but it looks like things are kind of resetting for Apollo. It looks like on this week's episode of NXT, he said he wants to confront Bron Breakker when he makes his return. So he says, hey, let's not forget, I came back to NXT because my main goal is to be NXT champion. So it looks like he might be Bron Breakker's new opponent. So I'm all for that. It's a nice little reset for him. Next up, we saw former best friends Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade go at it. Their spin the deal, make the deal match was a weapons wild match. This one was okay. They were trying to use the weapons best they could. The big thing for me was the trust fall towards the end, where they fall. They're up top on the balcony area there, and they fall back through the table. Now, what was it? Cora Jade was like, "All right, if I'm falling, I'm taking you with me." I think that's the idea. Yeah. For me, what took out of it, was just it looked like two friends holding each other tight and all right, let's just 1, 2, 3 do it together. It was not it jumped. It did not feel like it could have been maybe done a little bit better. Like maybe Cora dramatically look like she's falling back and one last ditch leans forward, grabs Roxanne Perez and then falls back with her. No, it looked like, all right, I'm about to fall. All right, let me grab you right now. They're taking their time and they wrap their arms around each other and like hugging and fall back. And it looks so planned. I think they could have, like, from an acting standpoint, they could have done it better. Like I said, Cora been like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then like last ditch effort, grab Roxanne, pull her with me. Does that make sense? I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Oh yeah, it was a little weird. I felt like the match was going really, really good up to that point, obviously, but it just wasn't a good table spot. Before they fell though, I was like, it was turning up. I was like, oh man, she removed the little railing that was right there. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. She's gonna body slam her or something, or even push her off. Right, like I thought, oh my gosh, she's gonna push her off. I felt like they should have went with something like that. That would have been more impactful and kind of meant something, especially if Roxanne Perez was to get up, or Cora Jade was to get up and then they continue fighting, whatever, But this one was.
It's okay. I like the finish though. Perez hit Jade on a pile of steel chairs and then forgetting her finisher on the top rope and picking up the win. So. Roxanne Perez picks up the victory. So, what's next for her now? Does she potentially enter the title picture now? I guess my other issue was just this whole feud to begin with. Like, we know they're best friends or we're close friends. They're both, like, Roxanne Perez just joined NXT not too long ago. Cora Jade's been there longer. But when Roxanne Perez debuted, they kind of put them together as, acknowledging their friendship. But that on-screen friendship didn't last too long. It's like they were friends, became sudden tag team partners, won the tag titles, and then boom, they broke up. Like, I kind of wish they would have dragged that out a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Like, let them be tag champions for a while, establish them as friends for a while on TV. Therefore, emotionally, when they do break up and Cora turns heel on her, it would have had more of a stronger impact. And they really rushed in this whole thing too quickly.
Well, and I definitely think because it would have worked better for their match that they eventually would have, right?
Yeah.
Because the fact that it happened so fast didn't give people enough time to really get invested and involved with the story, which is why I think a lot of the things that Cora Jade was saying about not being best friends with Roxanne Perez and what, the story that they were trying to sell about the, blocking each other on their phones and stuff, it just didn't feel real because it's like, guys, you guys just won the titles. You guys were just best friends. Cora, why? Like, you got to give us a better reason as to why Cora would want to turn on Roxanne Perez. It's not like Roxanne, was freaking getting any different opportunities than you were. You guys were getting the same opportunities. You guys were tag champs, right? So it was the build up to this was bizarre, but I think the match and the fact that this is probably over with now is a good thing. I think the stuff with them going and getting the pick your poison opponents, that was at least we got that out of it. At least Roxanne got a good match on SmackDown out of it. Cora Jade didn't get very much, but
and then they had Rhea Ripley, Raquel make appearances on NXT the week before. So, there were some little fun elements to that, mixing things up. But next up was the ambulance match between Julius Creed and Damon Kemp. The stipulation was if Julius lost, his brother Brutus would have to leave NXT. This match was why are you shaking your head already?
I hated that stipulation. I didn't get it because I mean, part of me was like, wow, okay, like, am I supposed to feel this way? Am I supposed to feel like I don't know who's going to win? Because it's like, man, like, is Brutus really going to leave? Like, Julius can't be a singles star that fast, right? And then it's just like, I don't know. I felt like this was another, again, poor effort to try and give us something different. Make it spicier, make it a little bit unpredictable. Yeah. But it was a little weird too. Like Julius Creed having a one-on-one match on a big premium live event like Halloween Havoc. It was a little weird.
Yeah. Well, my thing was like, okay, Damon Kemp, him as a heel is pretty good. Like he's showing some character.
Yeah.
And, the wrestling obviously is good between the two of them, which it's interesting. Damon Kemp, we all know it's the brother of Gable Steveson.
Mm-hmm.
And so not to get sidetracked here, are the reports with Gable, he's not picking up the wrestling that well? What's going on?
The most recent report that I saw was that he is full-time at the PC now after having, I guess, some procedure on his heart, I think.
Okay, because he graduated from college, right? He's done with college, so he's
and apparently he's not going back.
Okay, but is it like saying like he's just not picking up like how to be a wrestler that well? Like I was just kind of confused. Like it's kind of interesting that Damon Kemp, who's like the lesser known of the two brothers, he's the one that's like shining right now, which is interesting.
Yeah, and it seemed like he was a part of that class, right? Like right as 2.0, like before 2.0 started. Yeah. And then he immediately started wrestling, like he was having wrestling matches on Level Up, and then eventually being a part of Diamond Mine. I actually thought, and I would have, I was kind of hoping, well, this is a brilliant way to bring Gable Steveson in, have him help his brother.
Oh, and go against the Creed brothers.
And then eventually it'll be, them against the Creed brothers. Yeah, that would have been neat. I don't know.
So is Gable just having trouble like learning wrestling pro wrestling technique? Like I'm kind of curious. Like what's he having trouble with? Like they're saying he's not picking it up fast enough.
Yeah, I seen that. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe because when you get sent to the performance center, they teach you a certain way, obviously, and with him being an actual like wrestler, when you've got to learn how to be a pro wrestler and sports entertainer or whatever, it's could be difficult for some. I don't know. I think it had something to do with whatever he had went through. Like I said, I think
health wise,
yeah, I think he had something going on with his health.
Well, so I thought this was a great match, very hard hitting, intensity. My only question was the ambulance. They put it way in the back, so whenever they went to the ambulance, for us on TV, it's fine. The camera people follow them. But if you're a person in attendance, you can't see what's going on because they go in the backstage area. So I'm sure they probably displayed it on the screens. But I just kind of wish they would have brought the ambulance closer to the ring, kind of similar to what's the most recent one? Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton ambulance match. It was near ringside. Dude, I don't know how you fake it, but when Julius had his fingers on the door, and when Damon tried slamming the door shut, he had his, he stopped the door from hitting, but his fingers got smashed.
Yeah.
I know on Tuesday night he came out for a promo, and it looked like he had some little cuts.
Yeah, it was like bruised.
I don't know if that's makeup or was that real, but ow, like his fingers.
Oh, you got to be, and it legit. And I was actually looking at the door. I was like, is there padding right there? I mean, I know that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I know that the door has rubber like the seal, right, so that nothing gets in or out. But I didn't look like there was any padding there. It looked like it was just straight door hitting his hand. I'm like, oh my god, like that's the last thing NXT needs is someone out with injury, and then now they don't have anyone to book, But
so we see Julius powerbombing Kemp into the stretcher before tossing him in the ambulance and slamming it shut. So Julius wins. Creed brothers will stay in NXT. Or at least Brutus will be staying. He's not going anywhere. No, very fun seeing that. So happy for Julius. I think the Creed brothers, Julius specifically, I think he's going to be a big star on the main roster one day. I see it. They just need more time on the mic and developing a character, but the in-ring,
it's that I think that Julius Creed, like I can appreciate, like he does need more work on the mic, but the fact that he's just not afraid, right? Like he's you give him a mic, he's gonna do his best. He's been doing his best a lot, and he seems like he's just out there talking crap, like you know what I mean? Like look, I hate it to be another one of those trends, like like a world's greatest tag team. You see one go up and then the other one kind of stays, or Alpha Academy. You see one go up and then the other one kind of just stays the same. I would hate for something like that to happen, or even, the talks of Street Profits, Montez, and everyone's talking about Montez being a single star. I would hate for the same thing to happen to the Creed brothers, where they get to the main roster and then they're like, oh man, Julius looks great. Let's have him turn on his brother.
Yeah. Let's see. Next up for the NXT Women's Championship, it was Mandy Rose taking on Alba Fyre. What'd you think about earlier in the show where Toxic Attraction goes off site to like that haunted house to try to find Alba Fyre? Instead, it's like, I don't know, like an episode of Scooby-Doo where they see all these monsters stuff, kind of similar to stuff when we saw Dexter Lumis and what's his name? To the Moon.
Cameron Grimes.
It's a similar thing. Like they're off site and all these scary monsters and stuff are jumping at them. I mean, I guess for me, it just came off a little campy, and it made sense for the cinematic type match or that type of storytelling during the Thunderdome era. Or closed off arena, but everything's back open, so I don't know. I felt like they spent maybe too much time on that. It just came off a little cheesy.
I felt like it was. I felt like they forgot that they were on Premium Live Event. I was like, they think they're on USA Network tonight. Like, what is going on? Like, why are we doing this? And then they started it. Like, once they announced that this was going to be happening on the pre-show, I was like, what? No one wants to see. That's how I knew for sure that Mandy Rose was going to pick up the win here, because I was like, there's no way they're going to do this cheesy, weird stuff with the haunted house. And I was like, oh, man, here we go.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, that was kind of cheesy, but eventually carried over to the actual match. They come back to the arena. They make the getaway and Alba Fyre shows up and stuff. The match wasn't super long. It was okay. I mean, it was once again, it's. Now, I know Mandy Rose has been champion for over a year, or celebrated her 1 year anniversary as champion this week on NXT, that was the whole point. But the type of matches, it's getting a little redundant as far as the other members of Toxic Attraction. They come out, they help out, play the numbers game. It's like, I guess for me, I would like to see Mandy Rose maybe win a couple matches on her own. I know she's a heel, and that's a very heelish tactic to use, but eventually I want to see her kind of pick up some victories just on her own with no outside help, and just kind of help make her more of a credible champion. I know the WWE Universe, a lot of people are like shaking their heads like, oh my God, she's a year champion. She's like coming up, Asuka, Io Shirai type territory. I know Io Shirai was not a full year, but pretty close. Shayna Baszler had a couple long title reigns, and it's like, oh my God, like Mandy Rose is in that conversation as far as title reign length. Now in ring, that's a whole different story, but I don't know. The match was fine. Mandy Rose picked up the victory. Now it's like the question is who's going to beat her next. I mean, like we keep thinking she's going to drop the title eventually, but no, they've been really set on her as a year-long champion, so that's kind of shocking. So I don't know, man. Before we talk about the main event, I want to ask you, I know we were kind of joking that there was so much filler segments. So we saw Shotzi Blackheart and Quincy
Elliott.
Quincy Elliott. I was going to say Quincy Jones. I was like, no, not Quincy Elliott. They were hosting. Shotzi, I know she loves horror movies and stuff. So hosting was probably really exciting for her. It looked great in all her different outfits. The in-ring segment was okay. Lash Legend confronted her. And they had a little bit of a back and forth. I mean, Lash Legend, I give her credit. She looked great in her little outfit, but the kind of wrestle, that must have been tough. But it's still kind of silly. Like those in-ring segments just didn't really do much for me. It's just like, focus on the in-ring hosting, but they didn't really use them that much. Literally was more in the pre-show, right, with the spin the wheel stuff. So I don't know, I kind of wish they did the spin the wheel on the actual main show, but I get you got to fill up the pre-show with some content. So it just that stuff with Lash Legend didn't really do much for me. It just seems kind of pointless. Duke Hudson, now a member of Chase University, and members are kind of questioning his existence. The guy's changed how many gimmicks now? He was a gambler, a poker dealer, poker player, and now he's with Chase U. So I guess it'd be a fun dynamic. But I guess he's the smart student in the class, knows his WCW history, knew that the Outsiders beat Harlem Heat for the tag titles, and Booker T doing commentary for NXT now is very fitting for that question. Was there any other major segments? I'm trying to think. Anything else? Let's see. We talked about the haunted house stuff, but main event itself. So it was the triple threat. Bron Breakker defending NXT Championship against Ilja Dragunov and JD McDonagh. Great match. I mean, listen, I know Bron Breakker is still very green in many ways. He's an athletic monster. But when you're in the ring with Ilja Dragunov and JD McDonagh, there's no way you can have a bad match. Those two guys really did their part to kind of carry this thing. What do you think?
JD McDonagh is so good. Almost too good.
Yeah.
Almost too good. Dragunov is also very, very good. And I thought that this was, I know I said the last Bron Breakker match was his best match. I forgot who he fought. But this was, in my opinion, Bron Breakker's best match. He really went out there. He was involved. He didn't look like he felt out of place. He was hitting hard with both of those dudes. Not Jordan Devlin. JD McDonagh also looked like he was meant to be there. I know that's never been an issue in NXT UK of, someone big going against someone small, right? But on this larger scale, right, of NXT, JD McDonagh fit right in. He looked every bit as a threat to become NXT champion as Ilja Dragunov did. And that was what I was concerned with at first. I know they were trying to tell the story of Dragunov probably not, he's standing off to the side. Really, the real matches between Breakker and Dragunov. And, I know they're trying to tell a story, but I don't know, man. I was left thinking should Dragunov have won that? Or I'm sorry, not Dragunov. Should McDonagh had won that? Yeah. Should he have kind of snuck in there and picked up the win? I just feel like he's got it rolling right now, in the ring, outside the ring. It was a good match. Like I said, this was Breakker's best match, in my opinion. And now, of course, the whole time I'm waiting for a down.
I was thinking that too. I was like, are we going to get Austin Theory? Because there's three guys in the ring. Theory could theoretically cash in and pin two of them and protect Bron Breakker in this process. Yep. I was with you. I was very much thinking oh my God, this would be perfect for Austin Theory to cash in. No cash in. It didn't happen. But the match itself, the finish, we saw outside the ring, Ilja took out JD before going back in. Then Bron hit him with the spear for the win, and he retains the NXT championship. So, I'm happy for Bron Breakker. I'm a big fan. My brother loves him. For Bron Breakker, though, I hope they still develop some character and personality for him. Because now he's just a big, badass dude, athletic dude. And a lot of his rivalries are just someone that comes out and calls him out and he says, "Oh, you don't like me? Let's fight." Like that. It's kind of one-dimensional.
Yeah, exactly. And I definitely think the long run, he's not going to be able to survive with just doing that. Save some of that stuff for when he gets to the main roster, because I feel like that would help him when he gets there. Let's fight type of attitude, right? Like okay, we can fight about it. You don't like me, let's fight. You know what? I'm here to fight. Like that. You do too much of that on NXT, and it's just like, it's done. Like his matches are made the same exact way every single time, and at least this time, he had two opponents instead of one, so made him look a bit stronger. And Yes, only time will tell what they're gonna do with this character.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, I hope they add some more layers to him. I mean, it's kind of tough though because he's already the top dog. He's the champion. He's been champion twice now. I mean, literally for the better part of this year, except for outside of the 3-week period that Dolph had it. So yeah, but I hope they still add some new layers to him, add some more character to him, give me some reason to kind of care about him more, other than being a genetic freak in the ring, doing amazing stuff, doing his uncle's moves in the ring. I know Goldberg said, "Oh, he's just like me." It's like, well, okay, Bill. Okay, Bill.
I think the only way that's going to happen is if they get out of the PC. I feel like if they continue to have these matches in front of the same audience, he's gonna get the same reaction.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna be, he just almost he looks like Doug. You know how Doug wore the same thing every single day, right? Even backstage in his segments, he's wearing the same exact thing every time. Mm-hmm. The only time he looks different is when he's getting ready to wrestle. He has different gear, but like he's got the jeans. Well, I mean, I guess that's not really an issue. Austin looked the same too when he was in the ring during segments or backstage or whatever. But Austin was cool, man.
Yeah, well, it's just I get what you're saying as far as. They just got to add some more layers to him, like make me care about him, and like I don't know, it's some more stories. Maybe go through some more stuff. I don't know. It's just other than like, oh, you don't like me? All right, let's fight. That's it. Like, okay.
Well, I don't back down from a challenge.
Yeah. So it is what it is. Real quick. So on Tuesday, though, on NXT, it was Tag Team Title Tuesday? Is that what they're calling it?
Yep.
So we saw Kaden Carter and Katana Chance take on Nikita Lyons and Zoe Stark for the NXT Women's Tag Team Title match. Dude, great match here. Probably the best match for all of these women in the time in NXT, right?
Man, that's the best that I think all four of them have looked, for Kaden and Katana in a long time. But Nikita and Zoe, I'm very proud. I mean, Zoe can go, but like Nikita, like to go out there and to really go out there and put on a good match and show that emotion, right? Because that's a lot. I look for that a lot of the time with a lot of new guys and girls, especially when they come through the NXT system. I know they get wrapped up on trying to learn how to wrestle but a big part of it is selling, having the facial expressions, the emotion, and Zoe or Nikita Lyons showed every bit of that in this match. Zoe Stark, even, her passion, I know what she brings to the table. But Kaden Carter and Katana Chance, boy, did they earn that win, and their finishing maneuver is fantastic.
Yeah. So what do you think about that finish, though, the Dusty finish, as far as Nikita and Zoe thought they picked up the victory, but the ref did not see the blind tag. Yeah. And then the other ref came running down, restarted the match, and then Kaden and Katana were able to retain the championship. A lot of people were kind of frustrated. I was a little frustrated because how many times we've seen that in recent years, and we never had like a second ref come running out to say, no, that's not the right call. Got to restart the match. Most of the times, like, what the ref saw in the ring, that's the final call, the final decision. But this one time, they had a second ref come out and change the rules. So a little inconsistency from the refs.
Very true, but I liked it. And I liked it because I saw it. Like I saw the tag, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, okay, they messed up. Like she wasn't legal. All right, cool. Like, all right, well, that sucks. Like, I feel like that happens also where, I mean, we just recently seen where someone's shoulder was, or no, it was in the Dakota, her shoulder wasn't down, or she wasn't the legal woman. Like, she had tagged out, and Aaliyah had picked up the win, but she won, and Dakota wasn't legal. It was Aew who was legal. So that's how they got their rematch, right? And I know a lot of people didn't like that. So I feel like if I had to pick one of the two, I would much rather the referee come down, the senior referee at that, which is what they put emphasis on, who has the authority to do something like that, right? Came out and, said, we got to restart the match. And I was surprised because I didn't think that they were going to do that. I saw the tag and I realized that, I was like, wait, she's not the legal person. I was like, all right, well, I guess they forgot. I guess that was like a mess up or something. And then when they did it, I was like, I was laughing, smiling, because I was like, wow, like, okay, they got me, But I didn't have much of a problem with it.
I mean, I guess it works as far as to protect the tag champions and keep the titles on them. And Kai's gives the Nikita and Zoe like a little bit of false hope that, look, they're credible and worthy of maybe being future champions at some point. So I don't know, we'll see I guess for them it'll be interesting to see what happens next. If Nikita, do they continue as a tag team, or does Nikita, I think a lot of people are speculating she might get pushed as maybe Mandy Rose's next opponent. Maybe does Zoe turn on Nikita at some point? It's going to be interesting to see where that tag team goes.
Zoe looks like a Turner.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I mean, for Cade and Katana, I'm glad they retain, because I feel like they just won the titles and they haven't done much with them. So I want them to get some more matches under their belt. So we'll be interested to see what happens here. Very cool to see R-Truth show up and confront Grayson Waller, and we have a match next week. R-Truth back on Raw and NXT this week, so I'm getting finally some big TV time. Shotzi had her match with Lash Legend, so the follow-up from their confrontation at Halloween Havoc. Shotzi wins here. So did they say Shotzi's back on NXT, or this is just a one-time thing?
I think it's a one-time thing, but I think when they said she's back, because she's obviously former NXT superstar, so I think just it was weird the way that they put it, though. I caught that too. I was like, back on NXT.
Yeah,
they've been doing that a lot lately. Like even in regards to Toxic Attraction, when they've made their appearances on SmackDown, it's just like, okay, are they for real staying, or are they just here for just this one match? So
it might be just one match. I mean, that's my guess. Another tag match. So we saw we saw the Creed brothers in the ring cut a promo. Brutus was supposed to get 5 minutes with Damon, but Damon cut a video from a video package. Says, "Nah, I'm not medically clear. You have to wait for 5 minutes with me another time." But we saw Indus Shear come in and attack the Creed brothers. So I was gonna say we haven't a chance to talk about this. So oh my God, what's his name? Veer back on NXT. Kind of dropped the whole look that Vince created for him, and what's his name? Sangha are back, which it's cool, but it seems like Sanga's a little hesitant to attack the Creed brothers, unlike Veer. Veer was so down to destroy them, so that's gonna be an interesting dynamic. Pretty Deadly defeated Idris Enofe and Malik Blade to retain their tag titles. Great match here.
Really good match.
Idris and Malik, dude, they are very fun to watch.
Extremely fun. It's I can't believe they're there. That's how good they are. And I'm like, whoa, they got some good chemistry, and Malik Blade is really good. He's gonna be a nice hot tag for them.
And they're funny too. They're very entertaining in their personalities. We saw Indy Hartwell defeat Sol Ruka, but then we saw the return of Elektra Lopez and attack everyone. Good for her to see her back. So unfortunately, Legado del Fantasma got called up to SmackDown, but it looks like Elektra Lopez did not make the cut back to NXT, and instead they put Zelina Vega with them, which I like that move. Zelina Vega is a great mouthpiece for them. And probably Elektra Lopez, she's still very green to wrestling, so I think she needs to it's probably better for her to work on her character, her in-ring skills. I'm all for that move staying on NXT.
She's going to be the new Raquel over there.
Yeah, exactly. In the main event, something else happened on the show, which is a big talking point. I'll save that for the end. But the main event, we saw JD McDonagh defeat Ilja Dragunov. Great match here. But JD had him in the chokehold, and Ilja started bleeding and was knocked out, had to be taken on a stretcher. Man, what pretty dramatic finish for NXT this week. What'd you think?
That's exactly what I said. JD, he's going out there and he's proven that he may be small, he may be, but he's dangerous, and you don't want to underestimate him. I mean, he just took out a former NXT UK champion, right? Like over there in the UK, going up against, Walter, and so it means a lot to me that JD is taking a guy like Ilja Dragunov out. I'm just kind of now left with, okay, what's going to happen going forward,
Well, because we had the match, a triple threat at Halloween Havoc, but didn't he also just have a one-on-one match with Bron Breakker a while ago? So he's still booked very strong, even though he's had a couple title opportunities and lost them. So it's like, is he stick around in the title picture scene? Or, I mean, I think Apollo Crews, as we mentioned earlier, cut that promo saying he's going to go after Bron Breakker. Right. I'm not sure, but the big talking point from this week was Schism came out, revealed their their fourth member. It was this person in a red hood. Everyone's trying to speculate who it was. Come to file the big reveal. Ava Raine is the newest member, the fourth member of Schism, who, if you don't know, that's Simone Johnson, aka The Rock's daughter. I popped for it. I got super excited. NXT crowd in there got really excited too. I know some people online was like, "Who's that?" If you know, you know. But really exciting. The Rock's daughter made her TV debut. What you think? Fourth generation wrestler for WWE now.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I thought, I kind of figured that it would be her. I know another name out there was Ayla Dawn from NXT UK, but I like it, man. And she seemed comfortable. What she didn't say too much, but I felt like she delivered what she had to say pretty well. And I think it fits, man. It's something, I mean, it's something different, something out of the ordinary, right? Like for a woman to debut in the way that she did, and to not have a not throw her in a match right away, or throw her in a program with the women's champion, like, something different. I know a lot of people don't like the Schism. They don't like Joe Gacy. They don't like what they've done with grizzled young veterans. But I feel like if you give it some time, then I feel like, Ava Raine could possibly do some good for the group.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm all for this because I think for her, she said she wants her own identity. She wants to debut and build her own path, her own character, and not just be known as The Rock's daughter. So I'm all for, I respect the fact that she wants to kind of do it on her own, pay her dues that way. So it's cool. She has a new name, and she's going to be with a group. So, being under these veterans, no pun intended, grizzled young veterans, but they can kind of show the ropes, and they can she can work off them, feed off them, and it's like ease her way in properly onto TV that way. Now how, dude, if she has like half the charisma or mic skills of like her dad, she's going to be money for them. On top of, the fourth generation, appeal there, being The Rock's daughter. And if she can wrestle too, dude, bill it now. Charlotte Flair versus her at future WrestleMania. Man, exactly. It's going to be money. But no, I think it's a smart move. You put her in with the group and kind of ease her in that way, and it's not too overwhelming. But yeah, I'm really excited for her. I thought, she sounded pretty great on the promo. Just said, hey, everyone expected me to be a certain way, but Schism accepts me for who I am. Basic promo just to kind of acknowledge who she is and get her going. So very excited. Can't wait to see her make her actual in-ring debut. That's going to be exciting too, and see how she does. So I know we're running out of time. It's been a long one. Thank you for listening. Let's just touch on Dynamite real quick. The big takeaway, MJF cuts that promo, and it was interesting promo because like he had tendencies of doing heelish stuff and saying babyface stuff with Renee, which I'm like so torn. Is he going to be a babyface? Is he a heel now? I don't know what you think of this build to Jon Moxley leading up to Full Gear. It's kind of interesting.
Oh man.
They haven't really done much with each other though. It's been kind of lackluster so far.
I feel like the ending of the Hangman and Moxley match and how they kind of had to force that reveal that this match was going to take place at Full Gear. I think that kind of hurt the development of this feud, right? I feel like, and then I think the teeter-totter in between if MJF's a heel or a babyface isn't really helping either because it's taking away from the actual the goal here, right? Whether the goal is to full gear championship match, but then also we're playing, is MJF going to be a heel or babyface on the side? And then Moxley kind of got his own, like their match doesn't seem really important. I think whether MJF is a heel or not is something that I feel like is highlighted and people are talking about, and then Moxley being the workhorse that he is, having all these matches with any and everybody, right? And kind of putting the company on his back. I feel like that's another story in itself. So yeah, it's kind of hard to really get into, their match coming up.
What'd you think of so the main event was Moxley versus Penta. Now, I think no one knew or really thought Penta had a chance to win. They did. I guess I get frustrated. They throw these title matches together, and Moxley has an opponent, but no one believes that opponent's going to win because they don't build them up properly. It's just a random matchup thrown together, so no one's going to think Penta here is going to defeat him. But after the match, we saw the Firm come out and confront Moxley. MJF is like hesitant to run down the ring. Earlier in the night with that promo with MJF and Renee, he told Stokely, I don't want the Firm to interfere or beat up Moxley at any point leading up to Full Gear. I want to be at 100%. So when I beat him, I did it was all me. Sure enough, the Firm comes out, confronts Moxley. They start beating the crap out of him, and MJF's pissed, and he's like hesitant to run down the ring, but he does run down the ring like a baby face. It kind of makes it say, he stops everyone and says, you guys are fired. You did not listen to what I said. And sure enough, the Firm said, that's fine. They beat the crap out of him. And Morrissey puts MJF through a table. So the Firm looks like they're branching off and they're going to be their own thing. But this is like the second faction MJF was associated with to have turned their back on him. But he's laid down the table. So it's like, is that a babyface turn for him? Like, I'm kind of confused unless there's another swerve here and maybe he paid the Firm off to beat him up to give Moxley false hope that he's going to win. I don't know. Like, I'm really confused here. And, maybe next week, maybe we'll dig into this a little bit more and see how it, plays out on Dynamite next week. But I'm just really fascinated. How's this dynamic between Moxley and MJF going to play out to Full Gear? Maybe next week, let's talk more about the William Regal side of things. I wonder if William Regal's going to turn on the Blackpool Combat Club and join with MJF. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, see, I read something like that earlier on Twitter, and I was like, But then, even then, I feel like there's so much development, and wasted. I mean, even, with Yuta and Brian kind of arguing, going back and forth with each other now.
Yeah, Blackpool Combat Club seem to be falling apart.
All these factions are arguing with each other.
Brian Danielson, arguing with Yuta. Claudio had to break him up. William Regal. Like, it's a really confusing time right now. So I know we're running out of time here. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, but before we sign off, I do want to say that I think I got the finish to this match all figured out.
Okay. He
said that he wasn't going to use the ring, but I do think he will use brass knucks, and maybe William Regal will be the one to hand them to him.
Yeah, I think so too.
To take out Jon Moxley.
I think Regal hands the brass knuckles to MJF and helps him win, and it could be like his Paul Heyman to MJF and be like, listen, he says, listen, I'm sorry I didn't believe you back in the day when you first submitted to WWE, but I believe in you now, and we'll make sure you stay champion, something like that. So,
or maybe this is a way to just kind of write Regal off of, maybe he's like Blackpool Combat Club dead. It's over.
Yeah. So there's so much to talk about here. So let's save it for next week. Let's talk more Dynamite in depth next week when we have a little bit more time. I know it was a busy news week with NXT and just all the other news with AEW behind the scenes and Jericho. So on that note, let's start wrapping things up. Brian, where can the Kliqsters find you online?
Kliqsters, you guys can find me at BrianTronic on Twitter and Instagram. And
I'm Baby Huey. Follow me on Facebook at Baby Huey Official, Twitter and Instagram at BabyHuey83. For everything else, at In The Kliq on social media, inthekliq@gmail.com. Subscribe to us where we get your podcasts at. That helps out so much. Subscribe to our YouTube page. And we, of course, thank you for everything. Thank you for being patient. We'll be back to making regular episodes once again. So thank you once again for all the support. We really appreciate it. And on that note, let's go home. And that's the bottom line because Huey said so.